Okay. All right, we're live, everybody. So, what I'm going to do actually is just to look quickly um, at the page. Yeah, we are there. Okay. And I'm going to turn that off. Let's stall for a few minutes because I know that there are going to be a few folks that are going to be kind of trickling in. So let's kind of stall a little bit as people kind of find their way to the video. I think that that's just one of the things that happens with this technology stuff is that you know one thing I'm finding is that we used to just have a physical address that you would go to hear music, right? And we all knew what that meant, but now it's like, oh, there's a private link and there's a password and blah blah blah. So it's been a challenge, and I appreciate you guys hanging through and going through it with us.
All good,
But
man.
let's let some folks connect. We're almost there. Yeah. Okay. So at least I know it's working. And then, so the folks that are watching at home, I am talking to you now, just to say welcome. Thanks so much. And the thing. Oh, good. So Pam Jones is with us, and she says, "Wow, the performances were outstanding. Thank you, Pam." We'll get to some more substantive talk here, but I just wanted to say first that if you're watching and you're still at pjce.org, you can watch us there, and that's just fine. And you can follow the link kind of down in the right, this side, the right bottom corner or down here. And if you press that, it will take you to YouTube, and you can see us there. And just stay there for the rest of the event, and you'll be just fine. But so I know we've got a few folks watching now, and let's just go for it.
That word up pretty far.
And so first, I just want to welcome all of the artists. So I'll go in
Can
order on
you a
my
little bit?
screen. I can hear you, Charlie. Yep, you sound good. So I have with me Rebecca Sanborn. Oh, Charlie will come back. Sure, he'll be back in a second.
There you go.
Rebecca
I just
Sanborn
didn't
is
know
with
if you
us.
guys
Carrie
paused on
Pulitzer
that.
is with us. Andrew Oliver is with us, and Charlie Brown is with us as well. And his video will come back soon, I'm sure. But I wanted for each of you, let's just start with Rebecca. And Rebecca, could you kind of just tell us how you're doing and how you've been during this really, tough time and also unusual time that we've been all living through lately?
Um, Small questions. Let's see. Yeah, the pieces that I played were written from, you know, like a coping mechanism, just talking about how hard it is to sleep. Um, I can get to sleep and then I wake up and then the feelings and the thoughts come, and it's a lot of people I know are dealing with insomnia is the way that the anxiety is manifesting various things. And I've been doing a lot of different tools, meditation and journaling, and getting up, moving around, or counting backwards from 10,000. But once I'm up though, I'll be up for until the sun comes up, and then I get tired. Right when my daughter's waking up.
Right.
But so that I just kind of put all of that into the songs, and had the music help me process too. It helps knowing I'm not alone though. So many people I know are dealing with insomnia, and yeah, we're,
Yeah, you're definitely not alone. I know that lots of folks have been through that.
yeah.
Yeah. Carrie, how about you? How have things been for you kind of lately, musically and otherwise? I think you're muted, Carrie. There you
Hello.
are.
I was gonna say,
it can be kind of challenging because everybody's home all the time. And I'm one of those people that can mostly be productive when I'm by myself. And there's not a lot of that lately. So I don't have a ton of time to write music. And so I'm really grateful to be a part of a creative project like this one that can kind of take my mind off of the everyday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And how about you, Andrew? Or Carrie, sorry, anything else you want to add? Sorry, it sounded like you were done, so I moved on.
Oh, just that it's so cool to hear all these different takes on solo piano. I really enjoyed listening to all the other artists and what a different perspective everybody has, and just really wonderful musicianship from everyone.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I completely agree. I think you guys all knocked it out of the park. Did a great job with this, and I was really just I spent a lot of time mixing and producing all the audio and video, so it was a lot of fun to go through all that. Charlie, you're back.
Yes.
I'm,
Yes.
I'm glad. That's okay. We can see you and hear you now. I just want to first kind of give everybody opportunity to just say, how are you doing during this time? It's been a challenging time for lots of different reasons, and so we kind of want to just check in with you guys all personally and see how you're doing.
Yeah. Personally, like for me, the way I best describe it is it really goes, it kind of comes in waves of kind of everything, with productivity, creating. Some weeks, the brain and the functionality is there, moment moving. In some weeks, it's but also acknowledging that sometimes that's okay. That your productivity doesn't always have to be so. And so yeah, it's really kind of in waves for me, and waves of emotions, and times is really good times is really productive and fruitful times, but then there's also kind of just so yeah, that's kind of how I explain it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was an interesting thing I wanted to kind of put in here right now. Both Rebecca and Charlie, for those of you kind of at home, both of them did both of those pieces in one take. So you guys just kind of walked in and sat down and like just nailed it out, and that was really great. Not that Andrew and Carrie, you guys did great too, and I know you could have done it in one take, and you had both great first takes, but you both took. But anyway, sorry, this is not
Yeah.
to diminish what you're doing. It was an interesting thing. But then there was also another thing that happened that was funny, was that Charlie, due to my inexperience as a filmmaker and a filmmaker, I wouldn't even call myself a filmmaker, but due to that, just my inexperience, my camera ran out of batteries. And it was really frustrating to me. And so thank you so much for your patience. But what happened is, could you tell us what happened next?
My partner, me and her, she was with me and literally just happened to have her camera. We were doing some shooting and studio sessions right before, so she busted out her camera, and yeah, it was cool. It worked out perfect.
Yeah, and I'm super thankful that she did that, because otherwise, I don't know, we would have had to probably come back another day or something like that. Which, not the end of the world, but it was good to get it all done while you were there and all that stuff.
Cool,
so.
cool part of the process. Cool part of the process.
Yeah, and please thank her for me too when you see her.
We'll do.
Andrew, same question to you. How are you doing during this time? And also, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, it's been interesting. I mean, I moved back from London in June, which sort of still kind of feels like it was relatively recent, but I guess now it's been, a number of months. But it was pretty manic, for a while. Moving in the middle of this whole thing was kind of weird, obviously. And we had a lot of, logistics to deal with, and house projects and everything. So, I mean, music-wise, I've been like really tuned out of touch kind of with playing. And so yeah, again, like Carrie said, it was really nice to have like an excuse to just sit down and do something different. And I haven't been writing very much in the past couple of years, concentrating a lot on playing old jazz, and kind of become obsessed with unearthing all these interesting things from the past. So it was nice to try at least a little bit to synthesize some things into something new. So it's been interesting period of time. But again, thanks for putting this together and including me. And I feel like glad we got to use that little piano for something cool. And and you know, just to be involved with the PJCE again, because I've been keeping tabs, you know, from afar on what you guys have been doing, and I feel like just really happy that the organization still exists and that there's been so many cool projects and all this stuff going on. So thanks for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see, man. I have a lot of questions I could ask you guys. Now that you guys have, actually, I'll start with one that might be even a little more interesting. But I'm wondering if now that you guys have heard everything that the other artists did you have any questions for any of the other artists? That might be a fun way to begin. And if not, I got one from Pam Jones if you're ready.
I'd like to ask Andrew a little bit about your upbringing in piano. I love you've got a real like traditional feel to your playing. I'm just curious about like you're coming up playing.
Oh yeah. Oh well, thanks, man. Well, you know, I like in high school. I mean, I grew up here, and in high school, I got interested in jazz. Like, I got interested in ragtime because I was playing classical music. I started to get bored, you know, as everybody does at some point, I guess. And so I started studying with Randy Porter, but you know, I also like had this. Well, he was really like supportive of my interest in playing like 20s jazz and ragtime. But after that, I went to jazz school in New Orleans, and I did a whole range of things, you know. I mean, I played all sorts of modern jazz and bebop and a bit of everything, really. And I kind of also kept playing this stuff on the side the whole time. And then in the past few years, 5 years or so, I just kind of ended up in a situation where I was mostly playing this kind of stuff on gigs. And then I really started digging into it more, you know, with old records and just sort of checking out. Because, you know, I think at first I was zeroed in on Jelly Roll Morton and a little bit like James P. Johnson. But, you know, as I like, the more time I spend with 20s jazz, the more there is to discover. So I've just really been working on that recently, you know. But that's kind of how it happened. It was the first thing in jazz that really caught my interest, I guess. And despite everything else, I think it's still the thing that I like the most.
Yeah, no, sounds great, man. Yeah, I haven't heard.
Thanks, man.
It's good to hear that traditional style. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I forced you to compose a new tune in that style. I mean, you could have written in any style you wanted, but I mean, I thought it was an interesting thing too that, like, you know, Andrew's previous life almost creatively, he was doing like, you know, these kind of polyrhythmic tunes that were kind of a lot inspired by. I mean, I know that West African music is kind of an important kind of influence for you. And so kind of those polyrhythms, and I know I've struggled to play some of those of your songs a couple times that we played together. Just getting through those rhythmically.
Struggle. I mean, you sounded great, man. It didn't sound like a struggle to me.
Well, I appreciate that. Man, I would love to hear. Oh yeah. Well, let's see. So Lee had a question. I'm going to put on the screen here. So Lee noticed that Andrew and Carrie had the piano lid on, and Rebecca and Charlie played with it removed. And there are a couple answers to that. One, it was just that the microphones that you saw kind of over the strings in front of Rebecca and Charlie, those were there too for Carrie and Andrew. And so it's the same recording setup more or less. Although we noticed that, I don't know, Rebecca, why did we take the lid off? Because we could have let it on. Do you remember why we did that?
Because we weren't using music.
Oh yeah, I wasn't using music, and we wanted it to be loud because the squeaking of the pedal.
Yeah, maybe I don't.
I
don't know. The funny thing was that because of the wind got a lot stronger later in the day, as did the sunlight, which is kind of something I wanted to mention. That, like, also because I'm not an experienced videographer, you know, as we kind of went under this little clump of trees that is inside the garden, and it helped a lot because it would have been kind of hard for you guys to be playing in the harsh sunlight like that. But then the harsh sunlight in the background behind you was very bright as we were working on it. So there wasn't much I could do to change that, but it's something I learned. So the next video you guys see from me, and from PJCE, we'll try to avoid that kind of problem. But anyway, but as the wind got a little stronger, those mics that were the two small mics that were on top of the piano, kind of just in front of the strings like that, they were so much wind noise in them I couldn't even use it. So I was actually really thankful that I had another mic. That on your two pieces, that's the only mic I used. The one that was behind the window or behind the piano and kind of shielded from the wind a little bit. So sort of by design, Lee, I guess is the answer, and sort of not. So
Yeah.
I thought it would be great. Andrew talked a little bit about this, but I think it would be great if each of you could give kind of just how did you get started with actually writing tunes? Like a lot of times, as a piano player, you might learn classical music first, or you might learn jazz music first, or whatever. But a lot of times you learn songs by other people. So how did you take that first step in writing your own music? Why don't we go in the reverse order? And Charlie, why don't you start?
So I kind of came up, me personally, I came up playing a lot of gospel, playing a lot in churches and stuff like that. So I guess a lot of my style, I mean, the process is kind of different every time, but like for me, it's really just I like using the influence of of gospel music, but then at the same time like infusing like with more jazz voicings and stuff like that. Uh, and yeah, kind of just playing and a lot of singing. For me, there's a lot of singing and just like that second tune, regret. The purpose behind it was really not more less about the composition and more of like the expression. And like sometimes I like to think like that of just really expressing and playing and using my influence to kind of let that guide like the composition or let that guide the tune. That's kind of my process on it.
Cool. How about you, Andrew?
Oh God. Well, I don't really know. I feel like I have gone through a period of time where I was writing music very methodically, using. I sort of started just writing things that I heard, that were interesting, ideas that I based on other people's ideas, just to try to learn how to, come up with things from the beginning, like when I was much younger. And then I sort of, I kind of felt like I ran out of ideas that I could have. All the stuff I was writing started to sound the same. So then I sort of sought out some composition teachers to figure out how to get past that plateau. And then I ended up with like some pretty involved processy kind of compositions, which I don't really know how. I mean, those people like Pam have heard these things that I've written, probably for the PJCE 10 years ago. But
Right.
it was very interesting because I was trying to see like what kind of not like purely mathematical, but just sort of like organizational ideas could I use to get outside of like just what I could come up with from scratch without any framework, to get some new stuff happening. And then I kind of felt like I went through that period of time and exhausted that too. Then I kind of stopped writing music for a while because I had got so involved in like these layers of processes that I was making these very complicated things. And then at some point I kind of stepped back and listened to them and I was like, wait, what's happening here? So, I mean, so that's for me, it's been an interesting process, I wouldn't say struggle, but, a journey through different ways of trying to come up with material.
Cool.
Over the years.
How about you, Carrie? How'd you get started with writing your own music?
Well, so composing is one of the most fulfilling things that I can think of to do when I actually get the chance to sit down and do it. I think it really helps improvisation a lot, and it just helps build on your musical skills and helps to hone your musical voice. And when I was first learning how to play jazz, I studied with this teacher, Charlie Banakis, who was kind of a guru to a lot of people. And he was basically one of those people that wanted you to develop your musical voice. So he would have all of his students do a lot of writing, even if it was just writing lines. He really encouraged that a lot. And so I guess that's something that I've been just trying to keep doing for the last, 2 decades or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Rebecca? How did you get started writing your own music?
By not by straying from what I was supposed to be practicing.
Yeah.
Have pieces I was supposed to practice, and it started early for me. When I was about 6, I would hit a chord that I really liked, and then start messing around with it, and it would spin off into something. So I've always written. It's just been an urge it just happens. For me, though, specifically, I always pretty much write with lyrics and words and singing. And it happens all at the same time. I have a strong visual of the story. So for me, the experience is a lot like scoring a movie that's happening, and there's a lot of, like, the characters will come out, or if it's my own character process that I'm working on, the music and the words and the melody all happens at once. And yeah, it just kind of comes together that way. No real formula other than just sitting and down. If I go to, like, okay, I want to write a song, like for these pieces, for instance, I sat and just messed around until something felt right on, and it sounded right. And then once my toes in the water, then I'm like completely submerged, and all the lyrics happen and the melody happens, and away we go.
Yeah. Sure, I can understand that. I remember a lot of times that I actually found some music manuscript paper that I wrote on when I was very young, and was like, it was obvious like I had no idea what I was doing, but I was fooling around on piano and hitting things that I liked, and then trying to write them down, either to remember them or to share it with other people, I suppose. But so then it's been like a long process of like understanding what I'm doing, and then being able to communicate that to other people, both with other musicians and an audience, of course. So, cool. Let's see. I think Charlie's back. Ooh, here's a good question. So it's for you, Carrie, and Charlie's back. So Carrie, I was surprised that your music sounded more classical to me rather than what I'm used to you playing. Why? I really loved it and was just surprised.
Well, I guess Blue and Blue is maybe if that's one of the things that you're referring to, that album, I think that I can't remember, maybe I released it in like 2010, and I was really into Bill Evans at that time. So I think I had a lot of influence, like more influence from him. And I don't know, he's such an incredible pianist, and he always sounds very, there's something about his playing that sounds very classical to me. So maybe that element influenced me.
Yeah.
For that song anyway.
Yeah. I think Charlie's joining us on his phone, and so I think he's losing connectivity at some point. So hopefully he'll be back. But let's see. Oh boy, any other questions you guys have for each other? I'm curious if there are any things that might come up that way.
I guess
I have a question for Carrie.
I had a question for you.
Oh. Ooh, okay.
Okay, you can go first.
My question is, man, being a mom with your kids at home, and I can definitely relate. When do you write? When do you practice? How do you fit it in?
That's kind of it was along the lines of what I was going to ask you too. Well, it really has kind of fallen by the wayside lately. And I'm not thrilled about that, but it's just, everybody's home all the time, and it's hard to get like the mental break that you need to try to be creative and productive. So I guess right now it's not happening as much as I'd like, and I want to try to put more emphasis, make more time to do it. It's really important to do it, and I feel like it's really important for my mental health to to be involved in music. And it's just these circumstances now with the pandemic make it really difficult. So I guess I'm not doing a very satisfactory job with that right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I guess my
everyone
question
else
for you,
too.
yeah. So your songs are so beautiful. Do you find that you're like more inspired now than ever with, you know, this like with your new family, or is it also more difficult for you?
Um, it's hard. Yeah. The challenge is big. The only time stuff happens is at night after my daughter goes to bed. So after about 10 o'clock at night. And I don't always have the energy for that after a full day of parenting a very active toddler. I could force myself to sit down and make something happen, but it hurts. So, but then the insomnia is helpful because then I have some time there. But it's what happens, there's a trade-off. If I'm going to work at night, then it has to be with my keyboard instead of my piano. And, you know, I'm doing it with earphones, and it's not as, the soul of it isn't quite the same as having the house to yourself and making any kind of noise you want at the instrument. I miss that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because there's something about writing when no one can hear, or there's no possibility of anyone knowing that you're writing, that frees up the process in a way that when you're in the house with other people.
I think that's true of just playing in general too.
The constant interruptions are not usually conducive to creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been weird because the pandemic has kind of put musicians, like, in some ways it's kind of completely walled us off from the public in a way that's been hard, of course. But then in other ways it's interesting because it's actually brought ears to us in a different way. Like, you know, lots of people are doing, you know, and especially when we first started off in this quarantine, like people were live streaming like from their bedroom, and like, you know, you'd see people live streaming. It's like you'd be seeing their bedrooms when you normally would not want to see their bedroom, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's kind of had that weird like double effect on kind of what's private and what's public in terms of our music, and you know how that's changed. Yeah, but let's see. One question came in from Lee. So, did you all approach this project independently, or was there a conscious intent to present four different styles? And I can say a little bit that it was mostly just that these were four interesting pianists that I wanted to work with, and so I knew that they would all bring something really interesting, and it's kind of almost inherent that they would bring something different, and so that was kind of what we were. So I'd say, yeah, we were kind of going for that. But I wonder if any of you took that into account and thought, maybe the other person will bring this, so I'll try to bring something a little different. Did anyone think about that, or just kind of brought what you wanted to bring?
Not a bit. Just brought what I wanted to bring.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I was terrified. And I thought, well, the only way to get past being so utterly terrified is to step more into the table, show up. And it helped just to kind of relax the terror and be like, okay, here I am. This is what I do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like a week mulling over whether I should try to write something like I would have written 10 years ago. But then I was like, I had like all these like 1-bar things on this sheet of paper. And then at some point I was like, oh, I'm never going to get anywhere. And now I only have another, 2 weeks to go. So I was like, no, I have to just write something about where I'm at, which I think I was happy with it in the end.
Yeah.
Well, there's kind of, I think to kind of bring this conversation, kind of bring it to a close. I think, one thing that I was kind of thinking through as I was, we actually went through kind of scramble to figure out exactly where we were going to do this. We had another location in mind at first. It ended up being too difficult logistically, and then we had another information, place in mind, and that was so Charlie works on a farm, and I think you're a partner in in running it too. And so we were actually going to go there, but it ended up being kind of just a long enough trip away that it turned what was kind of an easy session into like a whole day thing for everybody, and so we ended up not going that way, but we wanted to pick a location that told a story, and to me, we ended up picking Peninsula Park, and it was because all of the parks right now are kind of like everybody's second like living room, like that's where we meet people right now, and if you need fresh air, that's where you go because there are very few other options. And so the parks have kind of become people's living rooms, and or they're like visiting parlor for their for meeting with friends and family. And so there was kind of that aspect of like, well, why don't we bring some music there, and why don't we do that? And I think another thing about and that has a lot to do with the pandemic, but another thing for me was that Peninsula Park has also been the location of several protest demonstrations that have been with kind of associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, and so that to me also tells a story about this moment, about that our music is maybe really close related to that, maybe a little bit further away, but I think that as we what PJCE is interested in is you guys as individuals having these opportunities to kind of share music, express your ideas, and to be able to share kind of what's going on. And so that was one way to kind of connect to that as well. So for me, it wasn't just about the rose garden, although it is a very beautiful rose garden, but it's like there's also these things. There's all these different ways that setting kind of communicates about music right now. And so kind of in that light, I kind of wanted to have each of you wrap up by just saying, what are you hoping, what are you hoping is next? Kind of in music, in life, in this moment in time. What would you like to see happen? Like how are we going to get from where we are into the future, and what does that look like for you? Let's go in the order that we recorded in. So we'll start with Andrew. So Andrew, go ahead.
Well, that's a
hard question, I know.
The question that everybody wants the answer to, I think, in a way. Well, I think that it's going to be interesting to figure out how to make it work as far as the bigger music scene and industry, so to speak, if there is such a thing left, is going to move forward. Because, I mean, no matter what happens this winter, I feel like by next summer, we'll be able to do things like play gigs in venues again. But I think it will sort of, change the landscape. And every day I think something different. Sometimes I think, well, maybe all this live streaming is great. In the end, maybe we can use that in the future to supplement what we're doing, or to change the paradigm for how we present things in person and online to, not just for people who can't come because of this pandemic, but in the future, people who are elsewhere. And, so I think maybe that, and I think everyone's become very good at producing things now at home, not just people who are already, engineers and making that kind of career move, as part of what they were doing. But I think everyone's been forced into it if they want to do anything at all. Everyone can record themselves now and has some proficiency with whatever video and audio things they're using. I mean, I certainly have had to up my game massively in that regard. And I think, that might change, because certainly a larger music industry that disseminates a lot of things and has money behind it is well, that's already been gone anyway. But certainly, maybe a positive thing that will come out of this is that musicians have, by necessity, developed more of those skills on their own. And that could be interesting, Personally, I'm going back to school for something else.
Right.
But that's another story, which isn't entirely related to the pandemic. But I'll be around. I'll still be around. I'll still be doing what I can in music, when we can. So.
Yeah. And Carrie?
Well, I guess one thing that the pandemic has done is kind of taught me how much more important community is. Maybe that sounds kind of goofy, but it's something that I miss a lot. I miss being able to hear live music. I miss being able to play with musicians. I just really miss the music scene a lot. And so as you know, I've been trying to hold a new house concert series outside of my house and stream it just so that we can try to, see actual musicians playing, and that's been really wonderful. Actually, we're going to have Andrew play with his tango group,
Oh, nice.
and you all are wonderful, Rebecca and Charlie. Maybe we can have you play too if you're interested, just
Love
because
to, love to.
we love hearing great music and we miss it a lot. So as long as the weather holds, and I don't know how long the pandemic is going to go on, but as long as it goes on and as long as there are a lot of venues that are closed, we want to hear more music. So we are going to be um, asking people if they're interested to come play and to come stream.
Cool. How about you, Rebecca?
I just have a lot of curiosity about where things are headed, but it's related to what Carrie was saying about community. I feel like for the past decade or so, there's been a downward trend in live concert attendance, and it always felt like, okay, we're playing this show and you work so hard to promote it, and your biggest competitor is Netflix and people wanting to stay in their yoga pants and be at home. And now that's everyone is at home, and I think that people maybe miss it. Like, and there's a feeling with the community, and if there is going to be a time in the future when we can get back to going to see live music and that energy that Carrie was talking about, that happens live, real musicians playing real music, all right there. That there'll be some community around that, a little, people showing up to support the artists. And yeah, I'm just curious about how this is affecting everyone, and the ways that it might make us all a little bit more mindful about where art comes from, the people that make the art, and creative ways that we can support those artists outside of, the traditional ways that we've supported them or haven't supported them in the past.
Yeah. And Charlie, same question to you. What are you looking for in the future, and what's on your mind right now in that way?
For the future, with how, it is a terrible thing that's going on, but like one thing that I've really have been trying to like push forward for, especially me and like my community, is completely the aspect of community, and in other facets past music, like it's like I never thought I'd be farming, but just the process of integrating agriculture, and like helping where our food comes from, what I mean, in a healthy way, as well as the straight produce farm, and we feed a lot of families per week, but like there's the aspect of just community, and finding ways to just back our artists that are here, and kind of get away from the industry vibe, and it's not the, it's evil out there, and see, kind of just doing it here is kind of my mission.
Yeah. Well, taking some things into your own hands in terms of like, putting something really tangible in the hands of people in your community that is helpful to them. So, because I remember you were posting a bit about kind of raising some money to be able to provide some food for free or very low cost to some folks who need it, and especially people of color who were kind of struggling, especially during that time. Do you want to? How do people find out more about the farm?
Oh, it's you just look it up online. There's social media presence and a website, Sanctuary Produce. It's a farm out in Salem, and just check it out, Sanctuary Produce. I got to make some veggie deliveries right after this.
Nice. Cool. Well,
Wow.
good luck with it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really
Yeah.
great. Um, well, everybody, I want to thank you so much for contributing your music to this project, and thanks so much to all of you at home who are watching and listening. And I thought also I would take this opportunity to say that probably a lot of you that are listening right now are already donors and supporters of PJCE. But if you're not, if maybe you bought your ticket, maybe you've heard us at a few other concerts in the past, and you're thinking, I would love to support artists like these and artists in the future who will be doing PJCE projects. The best way for you to do that is to become a PJCE sustainer. And so that's anyone who makes a donation of, $60 a year or $5 a month. And you can do that at pjce.org. Ooh, I have this cool thing that I can do. Oh wait, I can't do it because, well, no, I can do this. You can also contribute at PayPal, and we'll get it there too. But going to pjce.org/sustain, and you become a PJCE sustainer there, you'll get free access to all of these streaming events that we're going to be doing monthly, kind of until the pandemic is over, basically, until we can kind of get together in person again. And you'll get free access to those, and you know that you'll be supporting, artists in Portland doing these projects and kind of building towards kind of a brighter future in the jazz scene. And so that's how we put your money to work. And I would love for you all to do that if you haven't already. So, and then one last thing is that we're going to be sending a survey to all of you. We'd love to know what you thought about this event. If you had difficulties with the technology, or maybe just had feedback about the event, we'd love to hear it. And so I'll be sending that by email to all of you that I know bought or reserved tickets for this event. So we'd love to hear from you. And then Rebecca, Carrie, Charlie, and Andrew, thank you guys so much. I really appreciated working with you, and I loved all the music, and thanks again so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
It's really
All
fun.
right, guys.
Great.
Let's call it good there, and thanks so much. And the audio recordings and video, some of it's gonna go out on YouTube for all to see, and then some of it will be on our Vimeo video store that will be available later. It doesn't exist yet, but it will soon. And then our Bandcamp page at pjce.bandcamp.com. So that'll be up there as well. So, but thank you so much. We'll see you guys later, and take care.
Take care. Love.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.